Batten Bubble Shibber, whatever his name is, you're under arrest. That's that's right. That's right. The British government has just completely embarrassed Donald Trump, I would say, because now the arrest counter, okay, Epstein files. The Epstein files have been a big deal for a long time. Okay, uh, in a lot of ways, we're 8 years into this, following the death of Epstein in prison. In some ways, we're 10 years into this, based on AB Roebuck's reporting. Aaron Olson says, "Mic check." This has been
So, and of course, he was originally arrested almost 20 years ago. So Epstein, the whole Epstein saga, is a decades-long saga, and that's without talking about when he began doing his shenanigans, right? When I say it's been, this is an ongoing thing, it's been going on for a long time. And in that context, I'm really only talking about the length of time that he's been, that kind of the public consciousness has been aware of Epstein and his dealings. Now, for Prince Andrew to have been arrested this morning, I ain't gonna lie, that feels good. And frankly, I make the joke that the British have now embarrassed us, but in a lot of ways, yeah. Because while it was not actually one of his major platform promises, American voters did expect Donald Trump to be taking action on the Epstein files. And as you all know, as we talked about on this show, as we've covered many times already, the Epstein files, the handling of the Epstein files by the Trump administration, and most especially by Pamela Red Flag Barbie Bondi, have been a disaster, an absolute cavalcade of unforced errors and gross public relations failures. And I ain't gonna lie, it kind of hurts a little bit to see somebody else take action before our DOJ. Given the content of the Epstein files and the say allegations surrounding it, that there have been no other arrests to date in relation to it is just infuriating. Now, when I say there have been no other arrests, I have to caveat that a little bit, because the fact is that Jeffrey Epstein himself was arrested and incarcerated and arkancited. And Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested, and apparently there's some conversation. There's some speculation or some possibility that Ghislaine will be offered some kind of magic sweetheart deal in exchange for some information. And I know there are a lot of people who don't want to see that happen. They don't want to see Ghislaine Maxwell get off easy for what she's done, because it looks like she was very, very much involved in the actual, like the really, truly, purely evil shit that Epstein was apparently up to. Now, I'll say this, as much as I kind of feel the same way, I'd like to see her strung up by her feet and left to just drain out over a bucket. Guys, I've had to wrap up bad guys before and make the conscious decision not to end them on sight so that we could extract valuable intelligence from them. And as much as sometimes when you put your hands on a monster, the best thing you can do with it is to wring it out and let it lead you to the other monsters. Right? If you just eliminate every monster as soon as you get your hands on him, then the other monsters get to be evil even if just a little bit longer. And every minute that they're out there continuing to be evil is compounding the amount of evil that's being put into the world. So I as much as I hate to see it happen, I do want to get some intelligence out of Maxwell before she's eliminated. That said, I would very much like to see, once the maximum intelligence has been extracted from that woman, I would like to see her eliminated. Firing squad, electric chair, injection, toaster in a bed sheet. I mean, take your pick. I'm comfortable with it. But let's talk about Sergeant Major says waterboarding works. Yes, and it's not waterboarding if you use diesel. So, Andrew arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office as King says law must take its course. Guys, there's a lot you can get out of a headline. There really is. I know I'm bad about this, and but we're going to stop at the headline because that headline says a hell of a lot. The first thing that I notice in this headline: Andrew arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. So he was not arrested for any particular sexual misconduct, for trafficking, for being a pederast, pedophilia, any kind of sexual impropriety, any kind of human trafficking charges, no slavery allegations. Obviously, there are a lot of things that we kind of expect to see people getting charged for when they're connected to the Epstein files. And suspicion of misconduct in public office sounds pretty tame until you consider this. The facts as we understand them seem to suggest that what Epstein was doing is he had cobbled together a broad, complex, and intricate network of high-level officials against whom he was using various mechanisms, methods, and collections of compromat in order to blackmail high officials in governments all over the world. Right? So, with that context in mind, understanding that arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office, guys, that could go up to and include espionage against the crown. Right? That could be Andrew sharing state secrets with Epstein, who would then be able to broker those secrets to enemies of the crown, enemies of the state, just wherever he wanted to. So that's actually a big deal, right? And there's a whole conversation we can have over whether or not justice for one crime is justice for all crimes. Right? Let's say Andrew gets the absolute maximum. Right? Let's just assume that I'm not as familiar with British law, obviously, as I am with American law. But let's take this to, let's say that Andrew was an American of similar status, and the suspicion of misconduct in public office did extend all the way up to and including espionage and treason. Then the full extent of the law could see him executed could see him sentenced to death for those crimes. And there is the question there. If he's sentenced to the maximum penalty, the death penalty, for a crime, does that count as justice for the victims of other crimes for which he remains not even alleged? Right? Let's say he did all the baddest shit he could do as a state actor, gets tried, convicted, and executed for treason, for espionage, what have you. And is never officially alleged, prosecuted, let alone convicted of any of the many crimes that let's just assume, right, for the sake of this argument, that he absolutely did horrible, horrible things to delightful, innocent young ladies who are the shattered and destroyed victims of his malice and barbarity. Does his execution for an unrelated crime constitute justice for them? And I don't have a good answer to that. I don't know that there is a good answer to that, because, once you start down that rabbit hole, you can even go so far as to say, let's say he had hundreds of victims and only a dozen of them are actually named in allegations. Does that mean that when he's executed, he's only executed on behalf of those 12 victims and the other 88 did not get any justice at all? That's a sticky wicket, and would make for a very interesting philosophical debate, I think. But here's the next piece of that headline. King says law must take its course. Wow. Okay, little context. I don't know how up my audience is on British politics, because I don't talk about it. I don't talk about British politics that often on the show, and usually only in the context of its relationship to American politics. Like, for example, this morning, there is an important relationship between the British and American politics on this Epstein files question. But the king says the law must take its course. The king, okay, under British law, I mean, the king is in the modern context, the king is little more than a figurehead, practically speaking. But legally speaking, he does have an extraordinary amount of authority. It is rarely exercised. That authority is very rarely exercised. The Parliament rules Britannia. But the king does have the authority to simply suspend Parliament. He can switch it off. He can send everybody home and cause a new election to replace the entire parliamentary body. He could absolutely extend a complete and total pardon to his baby brother. And I ain't gonna lie, I wouldn't even be mad at him for that. Like, I'd hate to see us lose a peace. I'd hate to see the world lose an opportunity at justice. But at the same time, I've got 4 kids, a wife, a baby sister, and a baby brother. And I promise you, under any circumstances, no matter what their conduct has been, where the question is of their life, their safety, hell, their mere creature comfort, all other lives are forfeit. Please believe that. Right? I mean, that ain't a question. That's not even hard. That said, I mean, I appreciate the king being a lesser man than I am and just throwing his brother under the bus for the rest of us. Because, yeah, let's be real about what we're talking about here. The Epstein files appear to be the evidence of a massive global conspiracy of globo homo dedicants. That's global homogenization. I know I've said global homo on air a few times recently. That has nothing to do with sexuality, etc. It's not, the gay mafia is taking, no. Global homogenization, right? One world where everybody is just a genderless gray slave widget toiling under the auspices of a single unified upper class who get to eat all the real food while the rest of us eat the bugs and live in the pods. That's what globo homo is, okay? In fact, when I say the globo homo has nothing to do with sexuality, please understand that part of the objective that they have is a world where the slave class, the lower class, is no longer even produced through normal sexual means. You just be basically clone farms pumping out widgets that will turn the wrenches and then sleep in the pods. Sergeant Major says, yeah, it'll be gray skin, gray eyes, and no vote. But yes, essentially, they're looking for a global Dalit, a global untouchable class. So you're either a billionaire or you're down there in the muck with the rest of the human trash. That's a bit of a tangent. Within the context of that, what you're talking about are people who were dedicated to human sacrifice. And I will make this argument. Because of their dedication to human sacrifice, what we're going to see is that organization sacrificing its members. I suspect that Andrew was not arrested because the gears of justice suddenly decided to start turning. It's not like it's not like the king got out his moral WD-40 and gave it a shake and squirted a little bit into the gears of justice to get them turning forward. No, it is more likely that the entire cabal that's mentioned in the Epstein files decided, you know what? It's time to burn one on the pyre. We're going to have to spill some blood here. We're going to have to cut one of ourselves open so that we've got some Passover blood to smear on our foreheads and protect us from the ravages of the enraged untouchables. It may very well be the result of so much public scrutiny looking onto and into the Epstein files that those various and manifold unindicted co-conspirators are starting to become concerned that a global people who are seeing evil people get away with evil things and suffer no consequences and have no recourse under the law to stop the evil people from stealing and murdering our children, that we might start to pick up some pitchforks and, I don't know what else, and solve those problems. So you got a little human sacrifice, a little blood on the altar, and you start moving forward with it. So it's worth noting that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has not been arrested for anything surrounding Virginia Giuffre. What's led him to being arrested is information in the Epstein files around activities while he was a trade envoy, Although we don't know specifics, there has to be an assumption that part of this is going to be the sharing of documents within the Epstein files between Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein himself. That's when Thames Valley Police got involved. But once you're investigating someone for alleged misconduct in public office, it doesn't have to focus only on those emails, which we've seen publicly in the Epstein files. Firstly, there's 3 million documents in the files, so there may be some the media have missed. But secondly, Buckingham Palace said they would support Thames Valley Police in their inquiries. And that potentially means the police have gone to the palace, or could go to the palace, asking to see evidence of communications between Andrew and others. So, no, Aaron, they did not get him for trafficking people yet. Sergeant Major says all this proves that Trump is not involved in any bad actions. Otherwise, the press would be going wild. The press is going wild, is starting to go wild, Dad, and they will go wild. But understand, this news is breaking as of about 2 hours ago. This is something that's just happening. So I want to show you this from Wide Awake Media.
Since being thrown out of the Windsor estate, the police, just breaking news in the last couple of moments, extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living. Since being thrown out of the Windsor estate, the police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation and development on this story involving the Epstein files and all the allegations.
Okay, this is a 3-minute clip. She's going to cover most of the broad points that we want to get into, and I'm out of coffee, so y'all enjoy this clip for about a minute and a half while I run fill this cup up.
That have been swirling around about Andrew over the many years, from Virginia Giuffre, now sadly deceased, and since then, and certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. But the police have arrived at Sandringham Estate this morning, where Andrew has made his new home. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is. He has been arrested by the police. Of course, the brother of the current king, the second son of our late Queen Elizabeth. This is an extraordinary development. Those of us who've been talking an awful lot about establishment cover-ups and lack of, should we say, interest by the police in what are very, very serious allegations against Andrew. Perhaps pleased that that pressure has finally been put on the police, and they have done the job of actually looking into these issues seriously. Must bear in mind, of course, that the Prince has not been charged with any crime at this point, and he has always denied any wrongdoing in relation to any of the allegations about him. We'll give you more on that. We'll talk to you about that throughout the show, but I'm just being told that the arrest has been on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This, of course, relates to those Epstein file allegations and the documents that, if they are true, would suggest that he had, it is alleged, passed on basically what was confidential government information when he was the UK trade envoy for this country for 10 years to Jeffrey.
Okay, so like I said, the thing that they've actually arrested him for has to do with the possibility that basically he has shared valuable information with somebody he shouldn't have. Now, Aaron, you mentioned Andrew Tate. I actually saw Tate has a clip out this morning that I was going to I thought I had it pulled up. Where he's talking about Tate was arrested and spent time in jail, and there was no evidence, apparently. And when I say there was no evidence, here's the clip. Here it is.
So Prince Andrew just got arrested. That's interesting, for his ties to Epstein, because Prince Andrew and Epstein were best buddies, and we've had evidence of this for years. Everyone's known it for years, but of course nothing was done. They just ignored the evidence for a very long time. But now they've taken action. They're going to arrest him and they're going to question him and release him on bail. Interesting. You know, when these same people who are on the Epstein list declared me a national security threat in 2022 and decided to try and destroy my influence by accusing me of sex trafficking, they didn't have the evidence that they have on Prince Andrew. They had no evidence against me. And not only was I arrested, I was put in jail for 4 months. All of my assets were seized. Every bank account, all of my cars, all of my watches, my gold, my crypto, everything was taken. I was slandered in the media endlessly and locked in my house for 4 years without trial before they eventually threw out the entire case because there was never any evidence in the first place. So I wonder, considering that Prince Andrew has far more evidence against him than has ever existed against me, will he be in jail for 4 months? Will he be locked in his house for 4 years? Will he?
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not a big Andrew Tate fan. He has some good zingers every now and then, but by and large, the guy's just a douchebag who happens to have a shitload of money. Now, I'll grant he's got more money than I do, and maybe that means he's a little smarter than me. But I mean, the fact is he's not wrong there. And I won't even sit here and claim that Andrew Tate did nothing wrong, right? I mean, the guy is sleazy. He did make a boatload of money, basically producing pornography on the internet. Now that's not his only claim to fame. He's an MMA fighter and all that stuff. Sure. But if I understand it correctly, he made a lot of his money, basically producing prawn. And he was basically accused. He was basically accused of using underage models and taking advantage of the models that he used for his productions, and that. But when he says there was no evidence, I cannot say that there was no evidence, but I can say for a verifiable fact within the confines of the legal process that there was not enough evidence for the legal system to prosecute or to pursue prosecution to conviction. And given that his liberty was restricted for 4 years, even if he was just on house arrest, I mean, to be locked up in your house for 4 years involuntarily, and then the government to just say, you know what? We take it back. We actually didn't have we didn't have any evidence. Okay, Aaron says he was accused of the lover boy method, trapping people in his company and not allowing them to leave. Okay, gotcha. But again, apparently that's what he was accused of, but the evidence couldn't support the accusation. Now, obviously, we have not seen the evidence against Andrew yet, but let me pull this up. There we go. I'm going to tell you guys about Gmail. Hang on. Let me see if there's a dark mode. Because that's hurting my eyes. Nope, we're just going to have to suffer with it. So this is Gmail. Yeah, I could really go for a dark mode here. But this is basically somebody has taken the Epstein files and all the emails from the Epstein files and put them in here so that you can look at them just like you're looking at any other email server, and you can scroll through and see all the emails that were in there. There's the dates, there's the to and from, where the to and from is available. Obviously, a lot of those are redacted, but you can search it. And I'll search Andrew, but I doubt we'll find Prince Andrew pop up, because obviously somebody like him, there's going to be an alias, that kind of thing. But you can go in and read Andrew, yes, prisons, smart pillows, beautiful handmade in the USA, The website is Andrew. Yes, the email includes a happy holidays message and copyright information from 2012. It also states the recipient is receiving the email due to subscription to hear about new designs for blah, 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 blah. So, some of them are, a lot of it is just garbage. Intelligence Square, John Humphreys, the terrier of today, in conversation with Justin Webb. So these are, it's literally all his emails. So there's a lot in there that's just absolute garbage. It's all kind of stuff. Now that said, there's another piece in here. You can click here. Let me show you. You can come down here and you've got, okay, so there's the Jmail, JPhotos, JDrive. I'm going to be careful about JPhotos because anything can pop up there. But under more, you've got JeffTube, JWiki, JSbook, Jodify, as his Spotify, Jamazon, JMessage. So it's all here. Gemini spelled with a J, so there's an AI to work with. And there's JeffTube. Now, JeffTube is all videos from the Epstein files. And you can click through those and you'll find that a lot of them, you see the black squares there, a lot of redacted stuff. And, like, for example, up here, I noticed one up here earlier. Running around there's redaction blocks over all these people. But you see, he's up on this island in this kitchen. And as that block changes, you see, this is a small person. Maybe a child, it's hard to tell. Maybe a small woman. But I pointed to that to also to point to this. This description says all of the videos released by the DOJ from the Epstein files. About 140 videos are unlisted as they contain prawn and questionable content that we would prefer remain accessible through the federal government's site. The list is here. And just for context, just so you guys know, you're not, nobody's going on to the DOJ. This is something that people actually were concerned about and talked about in discussions on what to suppress and what not to suppress. But this is not anybody's new spank bank. Because you go on, you pop one open, it's going to ask, are you 18 years of age? And see, you see a head pop up there. There's probably something nasty going on here. But as you can see, it's redacted. There's a black square over whatever's going on, and that trend continues through everything. Somebody walks in, black square. You're not going to see anything, which I'm of two minds on in this because, I don't want the government publishing porno, certainly, but I do want to know who's in these, right? I mean, if you've just got a couple. A normal adult couple engaged in, consensual, if, maybe it's promiscuity and it's not the most moral thing, but it's a consenting couple, whatever. But we've seen some videos and some photos from the Epstein files where it is absolutely clear that, there was real psychotic harm stuff going on. Hey, Rhodey, I see you just popped up on YouTube. Hey, brother, do me a favor and make a comment over on Rumble because I'm short one. Literally, I need one comment, one live chat from somebody who hadn't already said something. But the JeffTube, the JDrive, and it's Jmail World. I don't know if you can, it's jmail.world to get to the email file. And you know what? I'm gonna peek at this before I pull it up. Okay, so the Jamazon thing, it's just his orders on Jamazon, on Amazon. Fair play, a lot of books, a lot of good books actually. Prune juice. But it's funny, hey, Rhodey's stroking Al Gore's rhythm. I appreciate that, baby. Big brother lives in your palm and he purrs when you touch him. But there's that one, and then what was the other one I wanted to do? Oh, Jace book. So there's Jace book. I'm gonna scroll slow. Uh oh. I might have to do a little. I might have to ask some questions and see what exactly. I don't know if this is just photos from the Epstein files, or if this is supposed to represent Epstein's Facebook page. But I think it's just photos from the files. And I'm only comfortable scrolling through this with you guys right now because I looked at the other piece earlier and saw that stuff is redacted all over the place. And credit where it's due, I'm seeing a lot fewer face redactions here where they're just straight up denying that people were there. So you're getting images on Jace book that appear to place a lot of recognizable famous people with the man himself, or there's one that's obviously old Slick Willie and some hot young little blonde that he probably shouldn't have been anywhere near. But okay, so that's Aaron asks, what was the turtle? What was the turtle? I didn't even notice the turtle, man. I missed it, and I don't want to leave you guys with a bunch of dead air there. Were you making reference to somebody who looked like a turtle? Anyway, so Andrew's been arrested. Best case scenario, he's the first chip to fall. He's the first domino. More likely, he's going to be the sacrificial lamb. More likely, he's going to be the sacrificial lamb. But if we're very, very lucky, okay, if you all clap hard enough for Tinkerbell, then maybe he starts spilling beans. But I might be tempted to pop over to Kalshi and see if anybody's betting on how long it takes him to get Arkansas. Actually, let's pop over to Kalshi and see if anybody's betting on how long it takes Andrew to get Arkansas. Actually, you know what? I bet you somebody just got paid out. Oh, maybe not. Looks like which party will it win the House race for Maryland's 4th? Who will Trump mention during his State of the Union address? Prince Andrew. Nope. Trending. Afghanistan versus Canada. Nope. Doesn't look like there's anything there for it. Rhodey says he's the insulative domino for the Royals. You might have joined too late to hear me make my Passover joke about smearing his blood on their faces, Steve. But yeah, I think that's all I've got for you today without just stumbling down a bunch of rabbit holes. But because I need to satisfy the big guys and make sure that I get all my points in, let me go over here and get you guys a raid for LFA TV. That'll be our raid this morning. And I'll hang out with you guys in the chat over there before I have to run out the door. Come on, slash raid, go. And confirm. All right. So that is all I've got for you this morning, guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up right there. Thanks for watching. We love you, and we will see you. Oh, damn it. Okay, housekeeping. One thing, just in case I forget tomorrow or things go sideways and I'm not here tomorrow morning. So normally I would say we'll see you tomorrow, and we probably will. We'll see what it looks like tomorrow morning. But I am taking one of my daughters. She has a karate camp this weekend, so she and I will be out of town, and we're leaving tomorrow morning. I'm going to try to do the show before we leave, but I might have to skip it, and there will not be a deep dive this Saturday evening. So we love you, and we will see you maybe tomorrow, but Monday at the latest. Y'all be safe out there, guys, and we'll check in soon. And there's the button.